This morning, what I see is a lot of very stoic Iran analysts, talking heads, diaspora, expressing grave sorrow. And why? Because they now know that America and Israel are now fully engaged in civilizational erasure. That there are no more military targets to hit. But that is not the point. That the entire point is civilizational erasure in Iran. And that was always the point. And because it became clear last night, if you didn't already know, that Trump simply has no plan and is not in control, and that Israel is in full control. And therefore, given what we have witnessed in Gaza, we can safely say that the exact same methodology, playbook, civilizational erasure is underway in Iran. And today, we find out that the strikes, US-Israeli strikes, probably led by Israel, have destroyed a 102-year-old scientific institute called the Iran Pasteur Institute, which was the leading institute for science and research, producing vaccines and other research. And it was the largest and most prominent in the Middle East and definitely in Iran. That has been destroyed. Yet one more evidence of destroying anything that reveals to the world Iran's modernity, Iran's sophistication, Iran's civilization. Let me read to you what Wali Nasser, who generally has a very sober attitude and delivery of analyses, and he's just one of the people writing this morning. And he writes, "The Pasteur Institute has been an icon of Iran's healthcare system, a symbol of modern Iran, established a century ago along with foundational health and educational institutions. Destroying it could have no other purpose than assaulting Iran's history, erasing the history of its modernization and development, take Iranians back to the Stone Age." This is earth-shattering because we have seen this before. We know what Israel is doing. They have now bombed this institute. Today they bombed a city called Mashhad. Mashhad is one of the most historical cities and very important to the Shia population around the world. Mashhad is where some of the most important religious figures in Shia history and mythology are buried. That is where their shrines are. So they have bombed Mashhad. They have bombed oil depots in Mashhad. Now remember what Trump said last night, that he has not bombed oil facilities or electrical plants. But here we are, they have set oil depots on fire in Mashhad, which destroys life and infrastructure and health and livelihoods. Then they have attacked key bridges and highways, delinking people from each other, preventing people from fleeing. Remember what I said yesterday. They want to only leave rubble, and they want you to believe that Iranians are just poor, destitute people, desperately living in tents, begging for aid. That is what Israel wants to leave, if they ever leave this horror. The thought has occurred to me, and it goes back to Trump and Netanyahu's hatred of beauty. How both seek to destroy beauty. Beauty as a sign of other people's advancement. Beauty as a sign of other people's superiority over these two old men who have at their command sophisticated weaponry, but not sophisticated intellect, not sophisticated minds. Donald Trump is busy destroying Washington, D.C. He has turned the White House into some grotesque-looking golden toilet, as far as I'm concerned. He has destroyed the East Wing, turned it into rubble. It is rubble. Building after building is being destroyed. And Netanyahu, he's been in power for 17 years? What thing of beauty has Netanyahu built in Israel in these 17 years? Beyond what has survived Netanyahu, the ancient sites of Jerusalem, which belong to all three religions. What thing of beauty has Netanyahu invested in or created? All he has done is destroy evidence of beauty everywhere else in the region. And now he is busy destroying any evidence of superiority, of beauty, of intellect, of research, of higher education, modernity, foundation, development. Iran has highly educated population, women, scientists and doctors and researchers. They don't want you to know it. They don't want any evidence of it. Therefore, they are bombing it back to the Stone Age. That is what this war is now about. There are no more military targets, but there are civilizational targets, and that is what they are bombing. So yes, what we read today is a lot of despair. For the Iranian diaspora that cheered this on, I wonder how they are feeling. It is really, truly a massacre in so many different aspects. And we should start calling this civilizational erasure. So as I said last night, we were watching oil futures rise real time. Oil futures opened $12 higher this morning. Stocks fell dramatically. The S&P 500, the Dow collapsed basically, while oil futures went to 113. Meanwhile, Europe is wringing its hands. Macron is foaming at the mouth, saying you cannot say one thing one day and another thing the other day. There is no military solution to the Strait of Hormuz. There is one solution, Mr. Macron. There is one solution. And that is to start sanctioning the aggressor. Start articulating that Trump is not in control of this war. Israel is running this war. And if you do not take a hard line, if you do not sanction Israel, you do not sanction its leaders, you do not sanction its doings, then you and you alone will be to blame in Europe. Weak and pathetic is how The Guardian is writing about Europe. Weak and pathetic. Indeed. There is only one solution, and that is an effort to stop Israel from doing what it is doing. One thing's for sure. Trump, Pete Hegseth, Rubio, J.D. Vance have deep animus and hatred towards Europe. And I wonder if that too has something to do with beauty. It is unmatched beauty in Europe, absolutely unmatched. They can only emulate and create another Arc de Triomphe in Washington, D.C. with cheap material. The original will always be Europe. There is deep hatred amongst these men for Europe. What they're doing in Iran is collapsing Europe. In their minds, they're harming Europe, strengthening Russia, which will also eventually harm Europe. Why the Europeans do not wake up to solutions such as sanctioning Israel, stopping Israel, stop this nonsense about berating Iran, and not berating the ones that are bombing and bombing and bombing. Mr. Macron, they bombed the Pasteur Institute, which was a joint venture between Iran and France. Why don't you get it? And if you do, why don't you do something about it? So the Artemis 2 is on its way to get to the moon, the dark side of the moon. Great scientific achievement. Race to the moon. Meanwhile, beauty is being decimated right here on Earth. Right here on Earth, people are dying. Right here on Earth, people cannot afford healthcare, cannot afford groceries. But I guess life does go on. Things of beauty are being decimated in Iran. We must remember it is now a war to erase civilization in Iran. Europe is proving itself incapable of doing the right thing. I don't know if it will wake up and do the right thing. But I think there is also civilizational bigotry that stops them from doing the right thing. But here we are. More destruction, more hell for the people of Iran, and no end in sight to this barbarity that we are witnessing real time.